Hey everyone, just want to get this out of the way, but this video is sponsored by Chitu Systems. They kindly reached out to me and sent me over this FilaPartner E1 filament dryer to review, and so that's what I'm going to do in this video. Thank you so much, Chitu Systems. I appreciate it greatly. Stick around, let's get to it. Why would you want a filament dryer? In 3D printing, we use filament, and that filament is hygroscopic, and so that's going to take all the water molecules out of the air and absorb it. They want to do that. Okay, so PLA is probably the least affected by this, but it's still affected a little bit by it. And as you go up in exotic materials like PETG, TPU, CA, polycarbonate, something like that, those are going to become more affected by that moisture in the air. And so they're going to absorb it. And what happens is it's going to cause print defects inside your parts. And so that's going to mess up a lot of stuff with what you're doing. So you want to have your filament as dry as possible. All right, let's get a quick overview of the system. So this system is going to come in three main parts. You have two boxes and you have a base. The boxes can come off completely. I was pretty excited about this because Chitu Systems does sell these boxes separately for about 50 bucks a pop. I think they're on sale right now for $39.99, so about $10 off. So if you don't want to go the shoe rack way that I have, you could totally get a bunch of these boxes and keep all your filament stored in there and keep it dry, because these boxes do seal up really well, and you can keep all your filament in here. The setup of this system was in all about 5 minutes, under 5 minutes. It's really straightforward. There's just three parts. They all come together. There's a power cord. You have these PTFE tubes that you insert, and then you're good to go. I didn't really have to read the instructions to get this set up. I did have to read the instructions just to make sure that I was doing everything right with the touchscreen and everything like that. Speaking of touchscreen, this system does come with the touchscreen. It is adjustable on the stand, and you're able to manipulate it in a way to go up or down based off where you're going to have it. So if you have it up high, you can point it down. If you have it down low, you point up, and you're still going to be able to see that touchscreen where you are. This system is made from plastic. It feels durable, I will say. It reminds me very much so of a Bambu Labs AMS. I know some people were talking about the quality of it, but in my opinion, typically people who are going to buy this are 3D printers and they know how to take care of their stuff, or they should take care of their stuff. And I don't think this is going to get destroyed. It feels good enough for what you need it to do, and like I said, it feels very much so like the Bambu Labs AMS. So there's the quality. It looks nice, the design's nice, and I do have printers back here. It's going to fit the aesthetic, if you care about that, to those printers. Continue on with some other things on this. So each box can accommodate two spools. The rollers, they're rollers, they work. They're relatively heavy duty, they're smooth, and I have no issues with them so far. Each box does come with a locking lid, which I do like, and then if you're done and you want to store this completely sealed, you can pull out these PTFE tubes and plug up the holes that way. Okay, there's two sets of holes, so make sure you plug up each one. Just like that. All right. Each box is going to be a separate zone, so we have two zones on this system. So if I have TPU in here and I have PETG in here, they're probably going to be needing different drying times and drying temperatures, and so I can control that with this touchscreen. So let's go ahead and turn on this touchscreen and get a look at it. All right, first things first with this touchscreen. When you turn it on, this is what you're going to get. Okay, you're going to have a 1 and a 2. That is talking about the different boxes. So if I want to go to 2, that's what we have. If I want to go to 1, that's what we have. It's going to give me a current temperature in Celsius. You can change that to Fahrenheit if you want. Just because in 3D printing we use Celsius, I'd opted to keep it the same. So I'm just going to go with Celsius. And it's also going to give you a current humidity percentage. Okay? And that is for each one. And it does update relatively quickly. The big con with the touchscreen is sometimes it doesn't feel responsive, and I don't think it's because it's not responsive. I think it's because you have to be accurate in where you're touching it and in the pressure that you're applying to the touchscreen for it to actually register. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Okay, when I want it to switch and it does go, it switches nice. The reason I don't think it's that big of a deal is because once I get my presets made the way I want them to, I'm not printing with thousands of different materials, right? PLA, PETG, TPU, CA, polycarbonate, that type of stuff, maybe some nylon. I have my presets here, and so I'm not always going to be poking this. The biggest thing is I need to be able to press play, and that's only one tap once I get my presets in. So I'm not too concerned about it, but just something to note, the touchscreen might feel unresponsive. Just make sure you're poking in the right place and applying the correct amount of pressure. So let's talk about the screen some more. Let's look into it. So here we have the presets. There are 4 presets you can make, and you can apply it to either both boxes or just one box. And so if I'm only using 4 different types of material, I can set up each one how I want it to be. So this one could be PLA, and I could have it for 60 degrees Celsius, and I want it to dry for 8 hours. This one I could change for, let's say 9 hours, or sorry, 89 hours if I wanted to, and that's how long it would run for. So you can have 4 presets. I'm pretty excited about that because, I was saying like this is sometimes not responsive. You're not going to be touching the screen a lot. Once you get your presets made, you're pretty much just going to be click and play, and that's the only button you really care about. Okay, moving on to the settings. You can change temperature units, so you can either do Celsius or Fahrenheit. Like I said, I changed mine to Celsius because in 3D printing we use Celsius a lot. So just for unification or normalization of it amongst my machines, that's what I'm going to go with. I can change my screen time off. If after 5 minutes I don't touch the screen, it's going to go off. That's going to save the LCD screen. You also have firmware update. If you want to flash this, you can with firmware you want. That has a USB right here that you can do that with. Okay, moving on. Language system, reset to default, and manufacturer information. The last bit on settings is this right here. We have automatic drying, silent mode, and filament box identification. I am most excited about automatic drying. If I turn this on and it senses that inside the chamber that this has increased in humidity, it's automatically going to kick on, and it will stay on until it has come down to an acceptable humidity level. So pretty excited about that. Silent mode, if you're okay with loss of efficiency, meaning like if you're okay with it being on for longer, you can turn this on and it'll be really, really quiet. Let's talk more features. So we're going to go ahead and take these boxes off. And this is what we're left with right here. Okay. We have 4 vents. And with these 4 vents, you're going to have 2 stickers. That is symbolizing hot air, and this is the return. Inside this system, let me go ahead and show you the bottom of this. Okay. These are where the vents are blowing into right there. And so you're going to have one vent blow hot air in, and the other vent is going to suck it in. And so you're going to have circulation. This is a big deal because a lot of people just use desiccant, and desiccant is great, but when you can circulate air through desiccant, which you can with this because there's places in the back and in the front along these vents that you can put actual desiccant in. When you can force air through that, they're going to be much more efficient at absorbing moisture. And also with this, when you have desiccant have hot air blown on it, it's going to automatically recharge. And so the desiccant, in theory, should be able to be usable time and time again. So I'm very excited about this circulation system inside of this. Not just heating, but it's actually circulating through the box itself. All right, let's talk safety features. So first one, there are pressure sensors in the base. So if this is going, and let's say this just happens to get knocked off or you take it off by accident, this system is going to shut down. The sensors will not let it continue if they sense that this has gone off. So it will stop and shut off. Next one, overheating protection. If this starts to get way too hot for what its intended use is, it will cut off. Okay, so it does have overheating protection and will turn off if it gets too hot. And then also it will give you any warnings if your fans are wearing out. Hey, you need to replace them. It will give you those warnings on the LCD screen. So those are great safety features that I think are a necessity in a machine like this. All right, let's talk testing. So I did 2 tests with this, with the oldest filament I had, and then I also left it like outside out of the sun when it was really, really bad weather. And so I had all the chance to absorb a lot of water, okay, and pull it out of the air that way. So I did some testing with it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same testing after I've done a cycle of drying with it, okay. I'm going to come up to the camera and I'll show you what it looks like and just kind of point out what I'm seeing here. All right, first things first, this is a 4-pin kind of test, and what it's doing is it's testing stringing, and as you can see, it is horrible. Lots of stringing, lots of bubbles. There's a lot of water in this, so I'm sure it was steaming out of the nozzle. Maybe some clogging going on there, but this is not what this is supposed to look like. Overall, very poor print, and I know the camera is trying its best to catch it, but hopefully you guys are able to see that that does not look correct. These are supposed to be smooth sides, no hairs, no strings. Next one is a 2-tower. Okay, and right near the middle, you can see, or towards the bottom, you can see how it gets thinner. Let's see if I can get that better on camera. It gets thinner, and then it goes back out to normal. So there was some water in the filament there in that line, and that's what caused that. And then there's some hairs on top, and then some hairs on bottom. So I'm going to dry the filament, and then I am going to do the exact same test for comparison. So I turned off the light so you guys can see the LCD screen a little bit better. I'm only using a webcam, so I know it's not the greatest quality, but hopefully we get a new camera soon and we'll see where we go. So I started off at 18% humidity inside of the chamber, and right now it's climbed up to 28 as soon as I put the Polyterra PLA inside of it, which is what I used for right here. And so it's just going to keep climbing up steadily is what I'm guessing. And so what I'm going to do is I set it to 60 degrees Celsius, and then I'm going to dry it for 8 hours. And that should take all of the moisture out of it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and press start. You're going to hear it kick on, and it's going to give me a countdown, and it's going to start drying out. And what I think I might do is, I don't know if I'm going to go for the full 8 hours, but if it drops down below 20 or it goes to 15%, I'll probably cut it off there and start a test print with it to see how it compares with the test prints that I did. So I'll jump back to it when this is done, and I'll show you guys the results. All right, so we have the test done. Let's go take a look at what we have. So first things first, I want you to ignore the bottoms. This is just because I was impatient. And so like this tower right here is a little crooked because that's where I started to pull up first when the plastic was still a little hot. So ignore the bottoms right here. But what I want you to look at is right here. You can definitely see hairs, strings, everything like that. And this is the wet filament. And then if we go over here, I mean, as you go up, you do get a little thinner. But if you look at it, there is very little defect in this dried filament tower. Okay? There's definitely not any strings. And this is awful, right? You guys can see the comparison. Okay? So score 1 for the dryer so far. And I didn't even run it for a full 8 hours. I ran it for maybe 4. Okay? And then onto this tower, same thing. You can see defects. Okay, up here, down here, you can see hairs. And then on this one, you don't really have that. Okay? So the moisture did get pulled out of the filament, and the filament is now usable again for 3D printing purposes. All right, let's get the verdict. You guys saw the testing. You saw wet filament versus dry filament, and there was a clear difference of the filament, right? After the filament came out of the dryer, worked phenomenally, just like new again. And honestly, this has me really excited because as you can see behind me, I put my film on a shoe rack. It's out there for a long time. And, you know, I might not use it for months. And then one day I might want to put it in. And, you know, I want to do a print without it being stringy, right? I will honestly throw all my filament. If I haven't used it for a while, I'll put it in here. Okay? It clearly makes a difference. And so I can't recommend this machine enough. It is great. You know, I told you at the very beginning, Chitu Systems supplied this for free. But they said review it honestly, and I am giving you my honest review. This is a great machine. If you have filament that is out for an extended period of time, get a filament dryer, and you know this one is a great option to go to. It has modularity, it has the circulation in it, it has the smart sensors, the active drying that kicks on when it senses humidity too high. It's a smart machine. And I can't recommend it enough. So I'll be sure to leave a link down below in the description to Chitu Systems website as well as Amazon's website for you guys to check this out yourself if you want to buy. Again, I can't recommend it enough. If you guys made it this far, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'm always trying to build this channel, so don't forget to like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and help me build this channel and try to get to 10,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Have a good night.